Hey guys, Ruminating here, back with another Halloween horror review. So I just got done watching the Criterion Collection Blu-ray of the Blob. Ooh, our Criterion, ooh, you're posh you. Yeah, I was curious to see what Criterion's transfer of it was like, and also, bit of, bit of fun, watch a bit of old school, like, horror, and see how it would hold up, in 2022. Yeah. So the film follows Steve Andrews, a young man in a local small town who sees what appears to be a shooting star fall from the sky. However, there's more to this simple shooting star than initially appears when something emerges from it and consumes an old man and continues to consume town folk just, just extremely quickly and growing in size with, with each with each kill. It's up to Steve and the local town folk to put a stop to it. Yeah, so before I begin, this is very much a film, of its time, This was released in 1958, So, so obviously this was probably seen as properly scary back then. And, nowadays, not so much. Like, I wasn't particularly scared by it. But honestly, what it was a, consistently very entertaining and, pretty cheesy. It's still extremely entertaining slice of, like, old school sci-fi horror film, B-movie filmmaking. And, and I would be lying if I said again, it wasn't a ton of fun, which it is. It's extremely entertaining throughout. The scenes with the Blob are, when it's at its strongest. Where it's making its way through every single crevice and every nook and cranny it can find, and just consuming unsuspecting town folk. And the effects for the Blob look really good. Obviously, these were the days before CGI, so it's obviously it was done, practically, and it holds up extremely well. There's some shots of, like, animation, like, later on in the film that don't look so good, but for the most part, it looks pretty great. And the sound design, and obviously it's that there's something about the sound design and, like, the scores of, like, these old films. I don't know, that just is, like, super charming to me. Like, obviously, the technology for these sorts of things has improved in the years since, but there's just something, like, I don't know, it just has a charm to it. The scores and sound design, all of these old films, and yeah, it's obviously kind of dated and cheesy, but whatever. It's got a charm to it. As does the acting. A lot of the line delivery in these old films, is somewhat, can be overly dramatic, but again, it it's got a charm to it, and I like that sort of charm it has. And the acting, for the most part, with this sometimes overly dramatic line delivery is pretty good. But standout in particular, of course, being Steve McQueen. But, you know, he, he is he's extremely charismatic. He has real screen presence, and he also very well sells, the fear and the paranoia of the situation. And it's all done effortlessly. It's proper movie star performance. And there's also some funny scenes he has with like some local teenagers. Now I say teenagers, Steve McQueen's character is like meant to be a teenager, because we see a scene of him with scenes of him with his dad, and there's also scenes of him hanging around with other local teenagers. Now, again, I say teenagers, this is obviously a bunch of 30-somethings playing teenagers, and and I was sort of took out of these scenes a bit early on. You're thinking the fact that that these obviously are grown adults, but these bunch, they've good chemistry, and their scenes together are fairly funny. And even on some of the supporting characters, we've got Steve McQueen's character's girlfriend Jane, and I sort of like the way the relationship with her little brother Danny. Yeah, obviously, for the most part, the characters are like fairly like stereotypical character archetypes you'd expect to see in this type of film. But it works. And yeah, overall, the Blob, it's obviously a product of its time, and some of it hasn't aged quite as well as other parts of it. But for the most part, it is an extremely entertaining, cheesy, old school science fiction horror B movie. And sometimes you just need a bit of that. I'm going to give the film a 7.5 out of 10. So before I conclude this review, I'll talk a bit about the Criterion transfer, because this was one of the things that I was curious about going into it. Yeah, it looks good. It looks good. I was kind of surprised by how like clear the picture looked. Like obviously, this is Criterion, a very prestige label, so they, without a doubt, put a lot of work into like preserving and restoring it. Obviously, there's a fair amount of grain, but it's obviously a film of that time. It's obviously shot on old film, so really there was no way of like avoiding that. But it's fine. It's not too grainy to the point of it being distracting. It's noticeable, but it's natural, and the sound was pretty good as well. The dialogue and the score and the sound effects, were very clear and in focus, and helps that the audio track, it's an uncompressed mono-aural soundtrack, so the lack of compression really helps in that regard. Yeah, it's a very good release from Criterion. So yeah, let me know down in the comments. Have you seen the film? What do you think of it? Have you seen the 80s remake? Let me know what you thought of that. What's your favourite of these horror B movies of the era? And what do you make of the Criterion transfer? And what's your opinions on the theme song at the start of the film? It's a massive bop. Let me know all down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget the subscribe button if you're new. And don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.